go.
Started.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here today with David Conovaloff, has a Christmas tree farm down here, Bowie, east side part, I guess the eastern part of Bowie, we want to call you. But here in Montague County, so I thought it was impressive because David's been out here several years now, and we sure like to come out here and visit with him from time to time. But David, I'm kind of curious, number one, why did you pick Christmas trees?
Well, we lived in San Antonio, and I was working for the government at their base there, and our boys were small. My wife said, we need some real trees from the boys because they're still small. Okay, so we looked around and found a Christmas tree farm in Pipes Creek, about 30 or 40 miles west of San Antonio. So we went out there, looked around, and said, hey, this is pretty neat. And we went back a couple of years and was getting close to retirement. And I said, no, we got to have something to retire. I'm not the type to sit around and do nothing.
Right.
So he says, let's grow Christmas trees. All right, so I know the guy and met him. He gave me a lot of fun. And then come retirement, my wife, we lived in Helotes. At the time, Helotes was the next town down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a suburb of San Antonio.
Okay.
So we got to get out of here. My wife is from this area initially a long time ago. So let's go back up here and look around. So we came up here, found this area here. It used to be a dairy, but it went belly up on it, and they sold it on the courthouse steps and divided up. I bought this section because I looked and said, yeah, this is good for growing trees. It's fairly flat, got a slight slope to it. The ground is good, well fertilized from all those 20 years of growing and nourishment.
Right, exactly.
And so we came up here. When I bought it, I drove around. I had a four-wheeler. I was staying on top of it, looking over the tops of the weeds.
Oh, wow.
Every weed was 10 foot tall. So we came out and bought it. Hired a guy at first to take and mow it all down. And apparently there was a big wind here years ago. There's those big stacks of brush and all that. Had to clear that off. And we brought a mobile home and parked it right where our house is now. Drilled a well, got water. We lived in a home until we built this house.
Right.
Which was about a year. And after that, then I went to this Christmas trees full time. And I bought our Texas Christmas Tree Growers Association. They have a forestry service raise them for up to seedlings. And with the roots, they're about 1.5 feet, but the tree itself is about a foot, maybe 12, 14 inches tall. And I found a place. I got laid it out, I guess, the best I could. I didn't know what distance between them. So I said, well, I'll do 2 paces between a tree and 3 paces between the rows.
Right.
Just top of my head.
Just a guesstimate kind of deal.
Yes.
Right.
And then I said, oh, I need a tractor too. At first I didn't get a little one. I went down and found out we got this used one. It's almost new. Good buying it, so I bought it. And the distance between the rear wheels is what I was looking at to make sure I get up and down the road. And it was good. So I bought it. They delivered it. I got it in San Antonio, and they delivered it up here for me. And started laying it out, and I just went parallel to the fence over there.
Okay.
Put out rows, and first year I planted, I was about 500. When you buy the trees, you buy them by the bulk, so you get 500 at a time.
And what variety were those?
Those are all Virginia pines.
Virginia pines,
At the
okay.
time, that's pretty much all the popular ones here. And some of these over here are probably some of those.
Right.
So they're probably 18 years old.
Okay.
And planted the first year. The next year I planted some more. Then the third year, the Texas Christmas Tree Growers wanted to improve the quality of our trees, Christmas trees. So they crossbred, I guess, 6 or 7 different ones, and they come in groups of 35. So they asked for people, will you grow these for us? We'll come out, we'll lay it out, we'll plant them for you, and all you have to do is from there take over and raise them. And after 3 or 4 years, after we get through judging and raising them, they're yours. Do what you want with them. So they came out, they planted almost 1,000 trees for me.
Wow.
I said, that was pretty good. I can't complain about that.
1,000 free trees, basically.
all except for the fact that now you got to stretch a hose from the house all the way up to the front there.
Right,
Well, this lasted one summer.
right.
The next summer, I decided to put a drip system in, and this here is part of the hose that I changed. When they came out, they planted them 8x8. So I put in the drip system for those, a little different. And when I change over from my 2 foot by 3 foot, I pull out a lot of hose, and I have these there, and I still use them to put them in and change them out and all that. The emitters I have on them, at first I water them for 1 hour, and the emitters put out 2 gallons an hour.
Right.
So I put out 2 gallons an hour for each tree, and I did that about every 2 or 3 weeks,
Okay.
depending on the temperature, the heat, and all that. And the soil here, like you told me, had 4 to 6 inches of sandy loam, which was good, but underneath that was clay. Well, if you water that much, the clay gets saturated, and the roots get fungus and root rot, cotton root
Right.
rot type thing.
Right, you bet.
So I lost a lot of trees after that. So I learned, and I'm still learning, I think. But all these trees that they planted, I guess it was a good year. I didn't water that much because I had to stretch the hose out and got the rain just right. They all grew. Probably 98% of them made it just fine.
Right. Of the new trees they gave you, basically.
Right.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And then after a while, people got saying, hey, there's other trees you could grow. People like a choice, a different. The two trees that they grow mostly are loblolly, which is mostly in the eastern, around the big thicket in eastern Texas. But then they have an Arizona cypress and also a Leyland cypress. So I planted a bunch of those, and we'll go out and look at those pretty soon. They're different, and they're a lot less trouble, and they use a lot less water. I know one grower, all he does is plant them and water them, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
Because he has to buy water from the city, so I can't afford that.
Right, right.
But it works for him.
So some of the troubles that you see with some of these, and I know you and I have talked about it, is root rot. Number one, from sitting in the soil, and we do have cotton root rot disease here in the soil anyway, but that just kind of adds to it because of that. But don't you also have problems with J rooting as well? Is that right?
Only whenever first planting. If you
Okay.
do it, plant it right, you don't have the problem. We have what's known as a dibble. It's sort of like a shovel, weighs about 10 pounds. Stab it in the ground about a foot, push it back and forth, open it up, and take the bare root, just drop it in there carefully, get it right, no J root, and pack it down around there, water it, and then after that, keep watering.
Okay.
The other problem I have is with deer.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
If you could see a lot of trees around here stripped, like that one over there, stripped on one side. Well, that's thanks to the deer.
Not necessarily eating, they're just rubbing their antlers to get the,
Right.
yeah, that's right. So some things you just don't consider and think about when you move here. So roughly how many trees do you sell a year? And I know you bring some in as well, but I mean, how successful have you been doing that?
The last few years, I usually bring in, but every year goes up a little more. This past year, I get 120 I brought in,
Okay,
and I sell about half as many of the ones I bring in as the ones I grow.
okay,
So I sold probably about 240, 250
okay.
this past year. Hopefully next year I'll sell a little higher. Every year it goes up about 10%.
And do you sell about a foot or how do
Right now, there's a big shortage of Christmas trees in the United States, due mostly from all the flooding on the East Coast, the wildfires on the West Coast, and there's a shortage. So my price went up to $9 a foot. Before that was $7 a foot.
Okay.
That's the ones of mine that I grow in. The ones I bring in, I just kind of price them individually by how much they cost to me.
Okay.
The big problem there is shipping from there to here.
Right, so you have some inherited cost already
Yeah,
on some
right.
of that deal. So what's the tallest tree, I guess, that you've sold out of here?
20 foot. There's one guy wanted a 20 foot in San Antonio.
Right,
And he wanted 20 foot, so we found one there, trimmed it a little bit, cut it down. I thought it was, in the ground it was 20 foot, but after cut down, it was only about 18 foot.
oh
But
really?
he still said, okay, that's good enough.
Gotta have room to put that star up on top, I bet, on
I'd
something
say,
like
and I had one out in Odessa, wanted a 30 foot tree. I said, oh, you come and get it, you're gonna have to share for it. That was
Right.
that. And then one in just west of Fort Worth. I sold one there for, I think, about a 16-foot tree. And I have another guy looked at a tree and said, oh, that's about right. Cut it down, put it on his truck. He said, oh my gosh, what did I buy?
So you get everything in between. And I guess you also kind of paint them too, just for some of those curiosity folks that want a kind of a colored tree, so to say.
Yeah. There's what we call a color enhancer that put on the tree, and it really brings out the green.
Okay.
That a lot of people use. I don't use it because it's so much trouble.
Right.
Use it and you come out, you're solid green, your tractor's all green. And then there's a Kirk color. There's one tree that you could paint it any color you want. I have one out there right now that's blue. I had one out there I sold last year was red.
Right.
But there's about a dozen different colors, and I sell 2 or 3 of them. But again, it's a lot of trouble to do it, and I always have a few of them, but they sell generally.
Okay, all right. Well, and we'll go ahead and kind of tour through some of this stuff, and we'll talk about a few of the different varieties that you have out here. But how long does it take it from me planting that Christmas tree till I get it ready to harvest? Is that 5-6 year plan? I mean,
it depends a lot on the weather, how much I water, fertilize. But yeah, at 5 or 6 years, most people want a 7 to 8 foot tree, and that's about 5-6 years.
okay, okay.
3 years old, some are 2, and most of them I planted in January.
Well, I'll tell you what, yeah. So we got some age to some of these trees here, and I know some of these may be different types and varieties. So what variety are we kind of looking at here, David?
These here are all Virginia pine. Every once in a while, a loblolly get on it, and that's one little tree right there with the long needles on it.
So kind of this big one too here, is that a loblolly too?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're a good tree. They grow a lot of them in East Texas, but over here I think the Virginia pine looks a little better.
Okay. So kind of a hardiness tell sometimes as well. You have to kind of look to see what's going to survive here.
Also, one thing, if you see over here, these are Afghan pines. Afghan pines like alkaline soil, and they do good. Virginia pines like acidic soil, so that's why I grow them here.
Okay.
Other people a couple of miles from here will grow those, and they look just fine.
Right.
And but those, they do grow. They're not supposed to, but that's probably why they're kind of dying.
I got you. Okay. All right. Basically, soil conditions. So we take a look at this small tree here. I mean, is this year's planting?
Planted those in January.
So planted those in January. And typically we plant trees, as the most part, you're going to plant them in the cold of the year. Bare roots typically.
Right.
You know, and so even though these are evergreen, they'll still have a little bit of green on them. But bare root typically, because they survive and they adapt to the soil a little easier. And as the summer or spring and summer come on, they typically learn to take the heat a little better, right? So now, have you got a drip irrigation under here currently, or are you just doing hand watering on these?
And there's one over here. You can see part of it.
Okay.
There's a drip.
Yeah.
Right
So yeah,
here.
you see there.
There's-
Got an emitter.
That's the emitter.
Right. And you're putting this out, and you're putting water out how often did you say? For a couple hours each day?
Well, now I put half hour about once a week
Okay.
because I lost a lot of them caught in root rot.
Okay. Okay. All right. I got you.
And then
So
I have each row has a come down right over here, and then let me see. Right here is what the deer do to it. So they save the tree. I put a stake there and keep it going.
So is there anything that you try to help prevent the deer, or you just kind of do what you can and go on, I guess?
There's a lot of things you could do that work, but it only works for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
I've got a bucket at the barber shop. I get a bucket of human hair, throw it around there. That works for a while. People make fun of me, but these dryer sheets my wife uses in the dryer, they have a scent to them. So when she gets through with them, I put them there, and you'll probably see a few here, and that works for a while.
Right.
And then you could buy all sorts of stuff that'll work for a while.
Right.
4-year-old.
Okay.
Tell by the height.
And here, I guess you've already got some issues going, maybe with a cotton root rot or something going on, or brown in there.
Probably lack of water or the summer, the heat a lot of times.
Sometimes just kind of.
I lose them for every reason in the world.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
And this here is my valve control.
And you probably just got you just turn it on manually, or you got a timer on it?
Turn it on manually.
Okay.
And this thing goes all the way out to there, then from each one goes out.
Okay.
Then here I put a hose in case I want to put a hose to it. And my well, on there, the water reducer, the emitters are only good for about up to 40 pounds.
Okay.
So I have to reduce the water pressure down to.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
And there's one there, one over there, one out there. My well is at just the other side of that little shaft. The water line comes all the way down through there up to there.
Do you have to worry about salts, or do you have it tested for salts, or is that an issue?
No, I got good water.
Okay, all right. Because I assume too much salt would probably be a detriment here.
I was going to buy a place the other side of Bowie. It was a good place, but we had the water. They had to pay to drill a well, and it was salty, so that was a loss.
That was out. Okay, I got you. So now what variety we got over here?
These are those Carolina Sapphires.
So they got more of a blue-gray tint to them then.
Right.
Okay. Now, and you said it's a cypress type?
Right, it's Arizona cypress.
Okay.
I want a cultivar of Arizona cypress.
Okay.
And I've got a bunch of them back over there in pots.
Okay. All right. So again, another different variety. Just maybe one that lasts a little better here that you found, or?
They use less water. The growth is a higher percentage.
Okay.
And they have a little different smell to them.
Okay. All right. More of a Christmas tree smell, maybe. Is that what you're saying?
It's more a camphor smell.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, sure does. It has a little more potent smell to it. You're right. Now, what do we got over here?
These here are more Virginia pines. This is I planted again all in January. I got 335 trees this year, and filled in the blank spaces there, fill in blank spaces there. And you can see some made it, some didn't.
Right.
So next year I'll get another 350 and fill in the blank spaces.
Right, gotcha. So what does it cost you roughly a tree to buy it?
$70 for 335.
Okay.
But they're bare root, and the Forestry Service grow them for us.
Okay.
Texas A&M also goes out and harvests the seed to plant them.
Okay.
Then they give it to Forestry Service. They raise them up to like that, and buy them back from them.
Okay, gotcha. Now, what are these bigger trees back in the background?
Those are all, again, Virginia pines, just older.
Okay, all right.
Those are the ones that were planted 2006, I think. Haven't seen them yet.
And so to get that pyramid shape in them, like you say, they don't naturally grow like, well, I guess they grow kind of up and somewhat pyramidal, but what do you do to make them more Christmas tree looking, I guess?
We have it's kind of like a weed eater, but we call it a Beneke, and it's got a special blade on it. And you just go up and down the side, walk around, trim it. Or there's another one called a Sagey, and it's got fingers like that to cut. It's a long side. You start and put the backpack on it, the motor on it, and just walk around the tree about once, and you get it at the right angle, and it trims it away that way. That's the way people grow them by the thousands. That's the way they do it. I don't grow them that much, so I just use my Beneke.
Okay, all right. So something to think about, as far as that goes. So
Sage will run you, if you can find one. There's only one guy that makes them. He got them all patented. They're about $4,000. Or Beneke, you probably get one for $600-700.
Okay, all right.
Now they have them with battery operated, which is a lot better.
Oh yeah, a little lighter, probably easier on you.